Hey guys, what's going on? It's Alex from Fitment Industries, and today we're going to be talking to you about everything you need to know about tires. Now, we have narrowed it down to 3 different types of tires, which I have right here. We have our all-season, which is a Nitto Neogen. We have a high-performance summer, which is our Toyo Proxy T1R. And then we have a winter tire. We have a Blizzak WS70. So the first thing we're gonna get out of the way is like the simplest thing, which is the size markings on the side of a tire. Now, you have 3 different markings usually. This one here is a 295, 25, 21. So what does that mean? Well, the 295 is a measurement in millimeters, and that is the actual traction path of your tire. So that's actually pretty simple. So if you're looking at a 295, that would be wider than a 255. And I know you guys are probably like, well, no, Sherlock, that's just something that's pretty easy to think about. But it comes into play, especially when talking about sidewall ratios, and that's that second number. If you have a 295-25 versus a 295-35, your sidewall is going to be larger by 10%. It's not an actual millimeters diameter measurement, it's actually just a ratio. So you can see people argue between like a 305-25 and a 315-30, or going the opposite way depending on how much you really want to have for sidewall. And obviously the third number is just the diameter of the wheel that you would be running. So if you've made it this far, congratulations, that was the easy part. So next we're gonna go into the tread wear, traction, and temperature. Now these were actually guidelines that were set in place by a national division to help you kind of figure out as an educated buyer what the tires were rated for. When you're looking at tread wear numbers on there, especially when it comes down to 200 and 400 and 100 and things like that, the most important thing that you have to remember is you cannot combine or compare this Toyo Proxy's number of 200 or 250 to something like a Nitto Neogen that's at a 250 as well. So the Neogen is actually at a 280. The Toyo Proxy is also at a 280, but that does not mean the actual life of the tire is going to be the same. If you're looking to compare that life, you have to compare within the company because they use different measurements to determine the actual lifespan of their tire. The UTQJ, these are the guys, they partnered with the highway control systems and all that sort of federal stuff to determine these, and they came up with 2 other testing measures, and those testing measures were obviously the traction and the temperature. This is here, a traction is an A. You have AA, single A, B, and C sometimes, but mostly you're gonna see those higher end tires come in an A or a AA. Now, on top of that, when we're taking a look at temperature as well, that is the same account. So it's standard weather temperature. It's not gonna take into account super cold temperature or extremely warm temperature. It's only going to take into account around 70 degrees where the testing actually occurs. Certain wheel treads are going to have different traction paths, and they're going to grip and eat faster or shorter depending on how you drive. So the next 2 things that a lot of people probably look at are speed rating and load index. Now, speed rating is exactly what it sounds like, and speed rating is kind of confusing because speed rating is ever evolving. Back in the day, they thought that they really only need tires that would go up to about 130 miles per hour. Well, it turns out that that's no longer the case. In fact, a lot of cars can go 130. So they developed new numbers and new abbreviations for Z and ZR and different things like that. On top of that, you also have a load rating index, and that's probably the most important. So a lot of our guys that are out on YouTube, you guys are probably running usually a stretch setup. Not a lot of guys that we know are running a Meteor setup or a track setup or anything like that, which is fine. I run both on different cars depending on what I'm doing, but a lot of people look at load rating and don't understand what it means. And load rating is extremely important because it tells you how much the tire can handle in terms of the overall weight of your car. And this is something that certain distributors online do very well, except it restricts a lot of people with aftermarket applications from buying tires that they know will work, but do take that into account. If you're looking at a load rating, maybe something like a Nitto Neogen may not work on your heavy VIP car. So take that into consideration. And in fact, in terms of load ratings and speed ratings, we'll probably drop a little bit of information right here in terms of speed ratings, and then we'll probably drop a little bit of information here about load ratings. So feel free to pause the video if you'd like, or we can just keep moving. And something else that you'll notice real quick is certain tires do have additional abbreviations on the side of their tires. The Nitto Neogen features an M+S, which is actually established by the Rubber Manufacturers Association to stand for mud and snow. It means that it does well in both of those conditions. But just be forewarned, mud and snow does not mean it's going to do amazing in a blizzard or a rainfall in the Amazon forest. this is something that has to be taken in terms of just an average of what you would expect, because when it comes to extremes, there's really not a tire out there that's going to be capable of handling every single extreme possible, especially considering the market that these tires are trying to go to. All right, so going into the next discussion is all about tread, and tread is probably the most important part. So if you guys don't know what tread is, here's tread. What does it do? Well, if you guys don't know, this helps funnel out water, and you're gonna see that drag strips don't have tread, and there's a reason for that. It's because there's no water on the drag strip, and a lot of times drag strips will get shut down for safety reasons because a lot of the vehicles that run those tires don't have any sort of tread to help get the water out underneath. Obviously, we have linear tires, we have asymmetrical, and then we have directional. And the asymmetrical and the directional can get a little bit confusing, but a linear tread is what we're gonna start with. A linear tread is exactly what it sounds like. It's just a linear tread on both sides of the tire. And you got nothing crazy going on. And that's good. It's not necessarily a bad thing. You're usually gonna see sipes to get the water out of the side. You're gonna see channels that are relatively the same size across the entire tire, and that's just meant to be a good, affordable tire. You are going to see linear tread mostly on all-season tires. Now, there are vehicles that have gotten a little bit crazier in terms of their linear tread patterns, where it starts to look a little bit more like an asymmetrical or directional. You know, the Blizzak here can be argued to be a linear tire tread, but a lot of the times you're going to see that occur on a lot of all-season or winter tires. So asymmetrical is the next discussion. Now, asymmetrical is something that you are going to see with ultra high performance all-season tires. Now, a lot of companies are trying to tag as many little titles as they can onto their all-season tires to make it sound like you're getting a better deal than you probably are. And that's okay. The Nitto Neogen is one of those tires. Nitto actually calls it an ultra high performance all-season tire. And you are gonna see that this is an asymmetrical design. And what does that mean? So with asymmetrical, you have an inside edge and an outside edge, and if you mess that up, the tire is going to be ultimately useless. Most of the reason that people go with an asymmetrical tire tread is because of the purpose that it holds when you mount it correctly onto your wheel. So with the Nitto Neogen, you're going to see that because of the inside and outside edge, you have the water getting directed outside of the vehicle. If you flip that out the opposite way, it's going to be going inside the car. And in terms of discussing an asymmetrical all-season like the Nitto Neogen, you are going to see a stronger tread pattern, especially on the outside here. This is actually going to be a lot firmer, and a lot of times asymmetrical designs, the way that they have this inner block is going to be a lot softer. The Nitto Neogen also has some inner circumferential rings that actually help with high-speed stability, which give it that all-season and high-performance title. You're going to know directional right when you see it because it's got the aggressive V that this Proxy T1R has. Now, this is all about just getting water out of the way, and that's pretty much the only focus that these tires have. These tires are really only working if the V is facing towards the inner edge of the wheel to help get the water out of the car and towards the back of the car. If you mount these incorrectly, you're definitely not gonna have a good time. You're not gonna wanna throw on a set of these, or pretty much any tire, but most notably summer tires, and then just rip on them. A lot of these tires have a bunch of different chemicals, especially when you first buy them, that are actually sitting on top of the rubber mold that they actually get produced at the factory. So what ends up happening is these are not as sticky as you would want them to be when you first throw them on. It takes a cycle or two to kind of get warmed up to get all of that burned off so you can actually get some traction when you are driving your car on your T1Rs. If you go and put these on your Mustang and then you go to do a burnout, you're gonna have a bad time because you're gonna realize there's a lot less traction that you planned on doing. So something else that you may have noticed is the stubbles on your brand new tires. And it's important that you don't drive excessively fast on them either, because of why they exist. They were made to remove the air bubbles from the manufacturing processes when the tires were originally made. What happens is at a high rate of speed, those stubbles can actually act like rollers, and you lose traction grip when they are underneath the car. So we usually recommend, and it's just word of mouth, that you don't run your vehicle's tires extremely hard until those things have gone away, especially considering the compound that sits on top to remove and take care of the mold process at the manufacturer, and the stubble that helps with the air release. You wanna make sure that both of those are gone before you really start tearing into your tires. You're probably still wondering, and you're getting to the point of which sort of tire should I buy and which one is the best for me. So we're gonna go into the first one, which is summer tires. Now, there's no argument that summer tires are probably the coolest. I like summer tires the most. They tend to have that aggressive design. They come in the sizes I want. The ratios for the sidewalls, they come in what I want. and relatively they're very good generally speaking. But there are some pros and cons to having a summer tire. This is your go-to for your summer toy, and that's about it. If you're looking to drive your vehicle in winter or through the 3 or 4 seasons like Wisconsin has, you're probably not gonna wanna pick up a set of these for your Subaru. It's just not gonna help you. And on top of that, if you guys don't know, summer tires are notorious for uneven wear, and it's just something that's very normal on a summer tire. T1R is trying their best to try and mitigate that by essentially having these shoulder pads that act as an evener depending on the amount of wear that your vehicle is getting. And they do that on purpose so that these can actually wear down inconsistently on the other side to help balance it out for as long as possible. Now the burn rate on the T1R in terms of mileage is not that high. They're gonna go out pretty quick, but they are a decent tire for what you're getting, especially considering the amount of options that the T1R has. One of the biggest pros, especially with the T1R, and mostly any summer tire, and we want you guys to know that this is a generalization, this is not actual, so there's going to be exceptions to everything, but a lot of the pros with the summer tire is you are going to get a stickier compound, and on top of that you're going to get a more aggressive options. With the compound and the options, you're usually gonna see these run on more sport cars, things like that, because they come in a lot of really good sizes. Now, summer tires, they do seem like a great end all, and there are some summer tires that are trying their best in inclement weather. Now, water is a great thing to disperse, especially when you have these on your summer tires or on your summer wheels, regardless on what you own. Cold weather equals sad. And on top of that, they're generally not gonna have a long life. A lot of that has to do with inclement weather. So when you're not driving these in the appropriate weather conditions, you're gonna see them take chunks out of the tire just because they're getting colder. They're not gonna be able to react appropriately. They don't handle the cold as well as they should, especially considering the Proxy T1R. I definitely don't think this is something that's gonna handle the cold as well as you would want it to. It's definitely a great tire, but you have to just take your shortcomings as they are. Is that Nitto Neogens and a lot of your all-season tires are actually a very good price point. They're quite affordable. And that's a good thing, especially considering how many a lot of people go through. So a lot of people go through their tires like they go through their wheels. They usually last around one set and then they sell them or give them up for something else. Nitto Neogen does a great job at being good at almost everything. So it's good in most cases. And let me just write that down because it's kind of important. And the reason that I say that is because I don't think all seasons are necessarily great in any occasion. They're good in all occasions, and that's why a lot of people buy all-season tires. So with the Nitto Neogen, you are going to see, generally speaking, it's usually a more unique asymmetrical design. You're gonna see the water sipes and all of that to evacuate the water as much as possible. You are going to see the channels to try and get rid of it as well. You're also gonna see these cross-section marks to help with making sure that anything like slush or rain or something like that can actually cut out if it needs to. And then you're gonna see these additional cuts on the outside of the tire, and it's all to make sure that you're getting as much traction as possible in inclement weather. But at the same time, because of the softer tread pattern, especially in the middle, you are going to get better traction in the summertime, which is why it gives it that ultra high performance all-season tire. The Nitto Neogen definitely does a great job in what it's supposed to do, and on top of that, they come in a ton of sizes. Now, when I know I talked about the summer tires coming in a ton of sizes, but what I mean is it's a little bit different. So these come in a ton of sizes for something like a Porsche 996 or Lamborghini or Ferrari or a Mustang or a GT350 or something like that you're looking almost into the 300, maybe a 315/25 or something like that. Well, not a lot of people are running those type of tires. Most people are gonna be running those 225s, they're gonna be running those 245s, they're usually running 8.5 to 9.5 wides. If they're running a 10 and they're going a 10.5 wide and they're going with a stretch, they're usually doing a 225 or even a 215, depending. And that's what I mean by they have a lot of sizing. When it comes down to that 225 to 275 range, they have a ton of different options. And when it comes down to having something that's flexible like the Nitto Neogen that can bend, that can handle a lot of different situations, it does a pretty good job. But there are some cons to having an all-season tire. It's just like being the jack of all trades. It's not especially good at one specific thing, which you kind of have to expect, especially considering buying an all-season tire. Now, I'm not trying to rat on those that have all-season tires. I do think that they're good at what they do, but you have to remember that you're getting something that's trying to be everything else. It's trying to handle in winter, it's trying to handle in summer, it's trying to handle in spring and fall. You just can't do it all. I'm sorry, it's just not the case. There are some that do it better than others, but at the same time, because you're sacrificing that, you are going to have issues down the road. And a lot of times with All Seasons tires, because you have so many different experiences with them on where they're driving or where they are, you're gonna have questionable reliability. And you see this on almost any all-season tire. Honestly, you're gonna see people love it or absolutely despise it. And I don't know if it has to do with a certain manufacturer that causes that, or maybe just the processes or the tread patch itself, but there's never been a consistent report, at least from what I've seen, on where everybody has consistently loved an all-season tire. Just because a lot of people drive them in different climates and conditions, it just causes a bunch of problems. So that is the Nitto Neogen in terms of the all-season. We had the Toyo Proxy as your summer tire. Now let's get into the last one, which is probably my personal favorite living up here in Wisconsin, your basic winter tire. So today we have a Blizzak, which is actually a WS70, and this one I believe is a 225 5017. This is actually going on a Subaru that I used to own, and this is the third and final category. If you live in the winter, you need to get a set of winter tires. Your mind will be blown by the amount of traction that you can get on these. Winter tires are exactly what they sound like. They're meant exclusively to be used in the winter or just harsh, colder months. Now, just like the summer tire, winter tires are jam-packed with a lot of different tech. They have multi-cell compounds, they have a very unique tread grip, they have a lot of different types and purposes that are not just meant to evacuate water, but evacuate slush and snow. So when we look at the WS70 and the WS80, which actually is probably, I would say, even better than the WS70 in a lot of different ways, the WS70, the Blizzak, is just touted as being one of the best winter tires you can buy. And there's a lot of reasons for that. The most important reason that you could probably see is because the amount of tread that you're getting on these, the singular block tread pattern, especially throughout the entire middle patch, is insane. On top of that, these actual groove exits, sipes, and channels are absolutely massive, especially considering what you're getting for a tire. Blizzak has always been known as developing just a great winter tire, and the WS70 was great, and then WS80 was even better. But when we take a look at something like this, why would you buy this? And especially, why would you put this on a set of nice wheels? So there are people that I think run a lot of Motegi or something that is like an NK, or maybe even something like a Wed Sport on their Subaru or Evo, and then they drive it all year round, or they try to keep them on as a winter beater set of wheels. Winter tires are great as exactly what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to handle tread, they're supposed to handle water dispersion and slush dispersion, and they do a great job at that. And on top of that, they're just an awesome tire. One of my favorite things about winter tires is they do exactly what they're supposed to do. They're great at doing what they should. And that sounds pretty self-explanatory. I know it sounds dumb, but a lot of times people buy all-season tires and they're crap in all seasons. A lot of people buy really cheap, generic summer tires and they don't do anything worth a damn in the summer. Winter tires, I don't usually think meet that cliche. A lot of times they are relatively very good in the winter. Now, obviously, we want to get this disclaimer out of the way too. Not all tires are created equal. Cheap tires cannot be compared to different, more expensive options like the T1R or like a WS70 or 80, just because they're not in the same category. Now, I'm not blaming anybody for picking up a set of Otsus or Westlakes or something like that if you're just looking to get by, but please remember that if you're looking to pick up a set of Westlakes and you're commenting on this thing saying, well, how does a Westlake compare to a T1R or a Toyo? It's not gonna work out well, because you can't put those in the same comparison. The amount of tech that these wheels have versus a lot of the more affordable options is just nowhere near the same range. And that's why you're gonna pay a lot more for different things like summer tires, all seasons, or winter tires versus a lot of those affordable budget tires that just aren't gonna last as long, aren't gonna grip as well, and just aren't a good tire. Now, going back to the winter tires, they do a great job at what they're supposed to do. And on top of that, they're not always going to be super expensive. They are, relatively speaking, in terms of their purpose, they are affordable for their life. And what I mean by that is that they do last a long time, especially if you use them appropriately. As long as you're using them as a winter set of tires, the Blizzaks have treated me very well for a long time, and they'll continue to, and that's a good thing. Now, there is a couple cons when it comes down to the overall winter tires, and the biggest and foremost is the fact that they're winter tires. Their usefulness is extremely exclusive to what they are, and I can't hold that against them, but what I can hold them against is the fact that their sizing is extremely limited. you're not gonna have a lot of options when it comes down to winter tires against something like an all-season or even a summer tire, because they don't exist. On top of that, your Blizzaks and a lot of your winter tires are not gonna do very well in anything besides what they're supposed to do. It's a niche purpose. So I wouldn't recommend you pick these up if you get 2 weeks of snow. I wouldn't recommend that you pick these up if you get 3 weeks of snow. However, if you live in Wisconsin like we do, definitely something worth picking up. And there's a lot of different reasons. So which one is best? That's a really good question, but that's entirely up to your application, because I can't tell you what somebody in New Jersey needs for the roads versus somebody in SoCal. But it does come down to what is the purpose and how long do you plan on running these tires. If you're looking to have something that's going to grip well, that's gonna handle the track, that's gonna be sitting in SoCal, that's gonna be something for a high performance vehicle, summer tires are the way to go. They're the best option for you. If the car you take to the track is also the car that you take to work and you're looking to get something that's gonna handle everything just appropriately, definitely recommend something like an all-season. They continuously are improving themselves. They're continuously getting better. I remember 5, 6 years ago, even 10 years ago, they were trash. Well, they weren't trash, but they weren't the best. And now that you have a bunch of different companies coming out trying to push that bar, I think that you're gonna see all seasons get a lot more competitive against the summer tires in good time. And finally, you have your winter tires. If you're looking to have something that's gonna keep you safe, that's gonna handle the roads, that's gonna handle the snow and the blizzards and the mush and all the crap that Mother Nature tends to throw at us when we want it least, winter tires are the way to go. It's just hands down the best option. We encourage you guys to check out fitmentindustries.com. We actually have 30,000 wheels, tire suspension, airlift, and silver suspension now. But on top of that, we just restocked a ton of tires. So I know that you guys like to get your wheels and tires together. This is definitely something I would recommend doing. It saves you a ton of money. So if you guys are interested, let us know. Otherwise, again, drop a comment. Let us know what you'd like to see next. I'm Alex from Fitment Industries. We'll see you later. Peace.